Good morning. Well, winter has come to New York City. 37 degrees, not going to get much warmer, but hey, it's better than being in the Great Lakes region. My grandson, who's up in Waterton, New York, near the Ontario border, he's going to be experiencing probably 6 and plus feet of snow, just like Buffalo is, or they're both under blizzard conditions. And it's going to travel to the Midwest as well. What happens to us here in New York? Seems we're going to be in the balmy 30s and 40s. So the reality of winter is set in, just like the reality of winter is setting in on Ukraine, Kiev now. They've got their first snows as well. And I don't know how easy it's going to be for them in the counteroffensive. Right now, they're making headway in the south, and there's fierce fighting in Donetsk. Putin doesn't look like he's given up, and all the world leaders are starting to believe that this is a no-win situation and Putin should just get out. So we'll see what happens. According to the best strategists, what Putin has done is a last-ditch effort to overwhelm Ukraine. And it's true, 10 million folks are without energy, power, water, food is dwindling, and so they're in need of a lot of emergency supplies. Looks like when Putin went to sabotage Nord Stream 1 and 2 in Norway, and it's not been confirmed that it's his people, there was more damage there on the gas lines than originally thought. Putin is not controlled, nor is he contained to one country, necessarily. Why he's got these delusions of grandeur? I'm not sure, but they're totally inappropriate in this time when we're still battling COVID, and now we've got COVID, respiratory syndrome, which is also viral, and we got to worry about the flu, and we got to worry about emissions. Lately in The Guardian, some of the talk is about food and food waste. A young woman who works for the Nature Conservancy said, "We've probably got enough food here for 12 billion people on the planet, but we waste 40% of the food. We don't seem to have the supply chains that gets inexpensive food to people. And yet we know that our food pantries are becoming overwhelmed. And we know that because of climate change and the need to adapt to this new climate reality, so many people are refugees. And they're suffering from famine, and they don't have enough food. And they've got to learn new ways to make that soil yield up crops. So change is happening all over. Another thing that's happening is Ukraine is still shipping about 10 million tons of wheat, fertilizer, sunflower oil a week. And that's due to go on for the next, I would think, at least 4 months. And then they've got the new crop to get rid of. You know, what they're getting rid of now is the old. Emptying the silos so the new crops can go in and then they can go out again. It's a cycle. The cycle of life continues. And I'm pleased to say that reality has set in to American politics. None of the folks, or pretty much none of the folks who backed Trump were elected. I gotta say, reality has set in. In Congress today, the Democrats retained the Senate, and the House is narrowly split. Yep. The GOP dominates by maybe one or two candidates. That's it. I think, though, if the GOP wants to win back modern workers, they gotta be less extreme. That's what the midterms have showed us, that we need a less extreme government. People don't like the incivility. If I could get rid of the misinformation and the disinformation, I would do it in a nanosecond. Takes law, and I hope somebody considers Section 230 of the Communications Decency Law right now. Because too many people, I read 30% of the Hispanic population gets its news from TikTok. If that's true, that news is already censored. And when you've got those For You pages, you're becoming more and more extreme. We don't need a population of extremists. We need a population of doers. People who want to look out at the country, touch everyone's hand, and see how are Americans doing. We already know that in the corporations, so many Americans are going on strike today and have been going on strike. Their wages are poor, they're understaffed, they're overworked, they lack benefits, and they're getting hurt on the job. We need better controls for OSHA and for benefits. I was at an FT conference on Monday, the Financial Times, for Women on Top of America. There was a lot of women and minorities represented in the corporate world. And it seemed to me there are no ESGs. When Abbott and DeSantis are saying, oh, we don't want corporations who care about the environment or care about American labor, looks like when I ask the question, how many of the Fortune 1000 actually comply with the ESGs, there is no data. When I mention that 50-year-olds were discriminated against in the workplace and couldn't get past the algorithms, I didn't get an answer, except afterwards everyone came over to me and said, you are right, this is what's happening. What I did hear from the corporate world is they're really defensive about their HR algorithms. They don't want to go back to people hiring people, which to me is more egalitarian and more fair and probably more merit-based than what we're seeing today. That's in the past. What's happening now is a very different cultural world. Yeah, it's civil, but it's not taking necessarily the best people, nor is it looking at the larger corporations. When they were talking about ESG, Chipotle was one of the corporations cited for their work in diversity. And all I could think about was, you've just been cited $20 million for not paying labor. Uber also was talking about its stance on white supremacy, and I kept thinking and asking the questions. Here you are talking about white supremacy and how you're against it, and I'm wondering, what campaign contributions are you making? And how many did you make to white supremacists? Couldn't get that data either. But then on the other hand, since they're talking about ESGs, which means that you're good to labor, you're a steward of the environment, and you give back to the community that employs your people. Very little of those corporations do that, almost none. And Uber, I already know that in several states other than New York, people are barely making a living wage. They're making about $5.63 an hour. So corporations have a long way to go. And I'm certainly hoping in this next, I don't know, rest of the term before the new government comes into place, everything that was on the Democratic wish list, like For the Families Act, like DACA, like TIPS, which is people on temporary permanent residency in the United States, like paths to citizenship, like standards for health care, that some of these big issues, and a war production emergency act for the climate. Looks like nobody in COP27 can come to an agreement on phasing out fossil fuels. I don't know how many of us will be alive when the temperature reaches over 1.5 degrees Celsius. I think it's going to be too much. It is already too much. But there's no agreement there yet. It would be nice if there was agreement on food waste and we could figure out how to get distribution to people in need so that they don't have to drink soft drinks and they can get a hold of water and other essentials of fresh fruits and vegetables. So there's a lot to be done in America, and there's a lot to be done in the world and on the global stage. And as I've learned in my own personal life, unless you keep talking, and you keep talking about the difficult subjects that affect us all, and you don't pass judgment, and you try to look at the other guy's perspective, you can't really not talk. You gotta talk. Because it makes sense to talk and understand each other. And it's ongoing, and it's hard work. But this is not a time for isolation of any of the world's leaders. What we do in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. Same thing for California. Same thing for Mumbai. The world is small, and we all listen to each other. It's time to get involved in climate adaptation, and it's time to integrate renewables into our systems. I should be donating whatever Fiji water I have here to the poor folks in California because they no longer have wells to keep water. The water is running out. This is a sad state of affairs. We gotta face it. We made the problems. We can fix the problems. No worries on my part whether or not they can be fixed. They can all be fixed. We just need the will. And the egocentric billionaires who built Meta, Twitter, Amazon, they're kind of getting their comeuppance. They're brilliant, that's true. But perhaps they should stick to what they knew best and let the management of businesses go to others who understand business. Bezos, he had a good model and he had a good run, but you can't cut out everyone and be the middleman for everyone. Facebook, it started out benevolent. But you know, when you're going to go and look into how to manipulate politics and misinformation and disinformation abounds, you're really hurting the culture. You should step back. And the same thing for Elon Musk. You're doing a great job on SpaceX and a great job on Tesla. Stay away from Twitter before it totally implodes. And TikTok, that's not our problem. It's Chinese, but it's becoming our problem. And once we think about regulation, it's all the social media platforms. So we're now in a real world once again, not super hyped, a world where we got to kind of dig in our heels and start tackling all of our problems one at a time and do it as correctly as we can the first time. We don't need to go back. We need to upgrade and move forward. So God bless you all. Have a lovely, lovely day. And I'll see you next week. I guess the next time I'll be recording will be right after Thanksgiving. So let me wish everyone a happy and a healthy holiday. However you celebrate, there is no right way. Just live and enjoy life. God bless you again. Bye now.